day, everyone. Hopefully, it's going well for you. Today, I want to talk about Anna Kasparian's political transformation. Some of you should already know who she is, but if you don't, she's the co host of the Young Turks, a Democrat leading news slash commentary show. And well, by Anna's own words, she used to have Trump derangement syndrome, and it clouded her judgment. She gave into the illogical fear propaganda that the left loves pushing, especially towards Trump and Republicans. Well, as we came closer to the end of our last election cycle, she started to show more signs of life, more signs of common sense, and was calling out the left a lot more on their BS, especially the mainstream media. And now in this interview, which I recommend you all watch, she came to the realization that her way of thinking was wrong, and moving forward, she plans to do a lot better. I think this was really something that we have to talk about because it's something very important, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents on some of the clips that I have here that I think really illustrate transformation and the effort that she's going through to kind of develop herself.
For me, at this moment in my, I guess, journey, if you want to call it that, is freedom, not having this weird obligation to any political group so I can actually explore the issues and not feel pressured to think in one way or another. I thought maybe coming out as someone who's unaligned would maybe get the cultish individuals off my back, but that has not happened. It's kind of amazing because, they've been very critical of me and they've been pretty obsessed with claiming that I'm not pure enough to be considered on the left.
That way of thinking is just so stupid. Like, she's been an ally of you guys for so long, and then just because she starts realizing the truth and the lies coming out that she's not pure enough, and they start harassing and saying all these mean things, and that's just such a terrible mindset. And she'll talk about this a little bit more, how these people, it's like their religion, and if you attack it, they're gonna fight back ferociously, but it's not. It's actually propaganda and lies. So, I mean, even someone like her is experiencing the backlash of going against the woke mob.
And finally, I was just like, okay, fine. Then I guess I'm not on the left. I'm unaligned because I'm certainly not someone that really fits in with the right either. It's just I have far more nuanced views of some of these issues. It doesn't mean that my policy proposals are completely different. It doesn't mean that who I am as a person is completely different. It just means that I have noticed some characteristics on the left that have essentially felt like ideological shackles. It has prevented me from, allowing myself to dig a little deeper and maybe even consider whether the other side has a point. And so I just want to be in a position to do my job better than I had been doing my job. And in that journey so far, I've realized that, I've had incorrect opinions and perceptions of Republican voters overall. I think that there are gradations, there are differences, it's not a monolith. I just feel a lot more in touch with reality and the world around me. And I love it. There's something very liberating about that. And so focusing on how good that feels has kind of helped me get past all of the bad faith attacks I'm dealing with, because ultimately if you're an intellectually curious person, you're going to have a hunger for learning more, for exploring more, for talking with people who don't agree with you. And if you find yourself in this cultish mentality where your social group is pressuring you to avoid doing that, you're going to lose your mind. And I really was finding myself in that situation.
It seems like there's no room for nuance. I really like that word. I like how she pointed that out. She's still following most of what she believes. It's just that there are certain aspects of it that she may question, or she may not like the way they're brought about to the people. And same thing for Republicans. We're not just a cookie cutter. Like, we're not just going to cut this triangle shape out and say every Republican thinks this and they're in that particular box, and then we're going to kind of cut out a circle and put the Democrats in there. No, we're all types of shapes in terms of thinking. We're unique in that aspect. We can agree on one thing but have different views on how it should be implemented, and that's fine. We should be able to talk about that without tearing each other down and degrading one another and acting like we can't just be civil afterwards.
I can't speak for the international community, but certainly in the United States, I think that politics has substituted religion to some extent. People have almost like this religious zealotry toward their political beliefs. And when that happens, it's really difficult to have a conversation with someone without it immediately devolving into allegations of bad faith, of, lying, deception, all sorts of things. And so maybe that's part of it. But honestly, I didn't really notice this as an issue in America until Donald Trump was running for president. And then after he got elected as president. And I am 1 million% guilty of honestly allowing him to kind of break my brain for a little bit, because I saw him as such a significant threat. And to be clear, there are things about Donald Trump that I still consider to be very terrible. The inability to accept defeat, the inability to accept that he lost the election. The Capitol riots get a lot of attention, but the Capitol riots were not as big of a deal compared to the fake elector scheme. That was the real plot to overturn the election. So those are things that I still believe. I'm still critical of Trump. However, I do think that there is an orchestrated effort in legacy media to paint him as even more demonic. And it's unfair to him. And what it does is it makes his supporters distrust media overall. So when the media debunks something and they do it accurately, well, Trump supporters aren't going to trust them because they have lost
The
credibility
boy who
for
cried
painting
wolf.
him. Exactly.
So she doesn't have to like Trump. That's fine. She can have her critical, things about him that she may not like, whatever it may be. But at least she's recognizing that what they're saying is just hyperbole and it's going way overboard, making up lies. Just stick to the facts. And because the mainstream media won't stick to the facts and they throw their bias and stuff like that, and they start accusing him of things that aren't true, of course, like she says, they're going to distrust him. They can clearly see, and this has happened many times, that they have a bias. They will edit interviews. They will leave things out. They will do all this stuff. They'll take little cherry pick little clips without any kind of context and slap a derogatory or some kind of like defaming kind of title on it that's just so outlandish. It's no surprise they don't trust them, and I don't think they're going to trust them for a very long time.
An issue that I keep running into on our show, and I'm trying to find ways to get around it or get the audience to understand what I'm trying to do. What I go out of my way to do when I research stories now is I'm not going to take any legacy media or corporate media's narrative on a story. What I'll do is I'll read it and then I'll go out of my way to find like the original source material. Let's say they're covering a Trump rally, for instance. I will watch the entire Trump rally double speed because that man loves to talk. And I'll get a fuller picture of what the story really is, what he actually said in context. So when he was being chided in the press for saying that if he doesn't get elected, it will be a bloodbath. That was a lie. He wasn't saying that there would be violence. He was saying that there would be an economic bloodbath. He was referring to the auto industry here in the United States. And so I felt that they intentionally took him out of context, unfairly did so. And I wanted to make clear to the audience here's what he was really saying. That doesn't mean that I am a Trump supporter. That means I'm just trying to get them accurate information because I don't want anyone in this country, and certainly I don't want my audience living in unnecessary fear. And what happens with the way the media covers him sometimes is it does lead to a lot of unnecessary fear. He does things that are terrible. Let's accurately report on that. We don't need to add additional garbage to it that doesn't make any sense and isn't really based in reality.
Again, she just pointed out a prime example of where the media took him out of context. They do that a lot as well. And of course, she can have her opinion and she can believe and say the things she thinks are terrible. She's allowed to do that just the same way we are about Kamala and Trump. Whether the other side thinks it's true or not, it's still fine. But like she's saying, report the facts, stick to the truth, stop pushing people into fear. But that's unfortunately the way the Democratic Party has been working, especially around Trump, is that they try to push fear that he's going to take away your rights. He's going to lock you up. He's going to put you in chains. He's going to throw you in a hole somewhere. That's all they have. That's the only way they can actually get votes and get people to join them, because when they talk about facts and the truth, they're not very compelling, unfortunately.
What's the story of your worldview trajectory over the last few years?
Oof, that's a big question for me because I'm gonna just talk about it from, like, my own context and what I've personally realized about myself, and I think that kinda gives you a bigger picture of the world around us right now. I was so certain of myself, you know? I was so certain that we live in a country that is just riddled with hatred and bigotry and racism. I was so certain that, the left was fighting to protect democracy and the right was dangerous and they didn't value our, system of government. I just had all of these certainties in my mind. And then certain things happened to me personally, which woke me up. Like that was kind of like the catalyst for me to actually start exploring a little more.
Yes, I loved hearing that, because that's what I say all the time. We can sit here and try to use, our logic to try to convince them of something. Only through experience can they be woken up. That's like the primary way of doing it, right? Someone could say, "Oh, these people aren't racist," and then, prime example, they'll say Trump rallies are racist, right? And then I've seen probably like 4 or 5 videos of a white guy, a black guy going to a Trump rally, and they're welcomed with open arms. They're like, "Wow, these people are really friendly, really nice." Experience will change your mind. Some people have to learn it that way rather than through logical explanations, unfortunately.
And I realized, oh no, no one really knows what they're talking about. And it's actually a terrible position to think you know it all, that you're certain that the other side is always wrong and your side is always right. And so i I can go issue by issue. I mean, I remember thinking, all the people who are in prison right now, or the vast majority of people who are in prison right now in the States, are there specifically for dumb things like marijuana possession. That turned out not to be true. I genuinely believe that pursuing policies like cashless bail would be beneficial to society because if someone is poor and they didn't commit a crime, it doesn't make sense for them to be detained pre-trial. They lose their jobs, their lives fall apart. It's just unfair. And I still believe that. I just think that the way that those policies were implemented were faulty, and the left is just unwilling to recalibrate at all. We can still have a better system with the same objectives in mind, but there's just a rigidness to both sides of the political aisle, to be quite frank with you. And it drives me crazy because it prevents the possibility of solutions to societal ills that we do have.
I can agree that both sides are pretty close minded. And then I would say as well, like, instead of hearing an idea and jumping straight to, "Oh, that's a stupid idea, you're dumb, anyone else got anything," we can just be a little bit open minded. Okay, yes, maybe it's not the best. Is there anything we could possibly do to improve it? Why don't we have an improvement kind of mentality on some of these things? Is what we have now the best it could be, or can it be improved? Okay, who's got ideas? Let's hear from the left, let's hear from the right, and try to be constructive towards those until we can come to a pretty good conclusion that after thinking about it, it's really not a good idea.
When it comes to economic policies, I'm a big proponent of universal economic policies that anyone could benefit from. I think the left has kind of moved away from that. The Democratic Party certainly likes to lean into the identity politics more than the economic politics. It's unfortunate that, with the Biden administration, I actually think that he did do a few good things when it comes to some of his economic policies. I like Lena Khan, who's the head of the Federal Trade Commission. She's been doing a great job preventing monopolies or breaking up companies to ensure that consumers have more options. So there's some good stuff happening as well. And I do want to applaud Biden for that. But Biden also did things that I think were not so great. Certainly, some foreign policy decisions and certain reversals of Trump era immigration policies, which at the time I didn't give Trump credit for because he wasn't really applauded for it. And I didn't realize that, the Remain in Mexico policy was actually very successful. And Biden reversing it did lead to the crisis at the border that ended up being a political liability that backed him up into a corner. And suddenly he's hitting up Republicans in the Senate, asking them to write legislation that Republicans would like.
Well, there you have it. Anna said it herself. The Remain in Mexico was a good idea. Anywho, that's what I got for you guys. Like I said, go check it out. It's about an hour long. Modern Wisdom, I believe, is the channel. You'll find it. Just type her name in. It's really good. It was really nice to hear and really good to see that someone on the left looking inward, discovering and realizing and stepping out of the box of fear. I applaud you. Good job, good job. Lots of respect for people that can do that. If you enjoy the content, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button for your favorite churro on YouTube. See you guys on the next one.